Hi, past, present, and future homeowners. Welcome back to another episode of the Property Buyer's Guide. So, this week we'll be delving into the process of transferring your property. Our guest today, Ms. Mbaisa, will be taking us through the process of transferring your property, and she'll be answering all the questions that we have this afternoon. Welcome, Ms. Mbaisa.
Thank you, Ms. Justin, for having me on your program.
Okay, so let's delve right in. Can you please explain to us what is the role that the deeds office plays in transferring your property from one person or one entity to another?
Okay. Thank you very much for your question. Before I go into the role of the deeds office, allow me first maybe to give the mandate of the deeds office.
Yes.
Which now I will elaborate it, is to say that the deeds office's mandate is to register title deed and other deeds document. It also manage and maintain immovable properties and movable properties, Registry of Namibia.
Okay.
It also provide information and archive records that have to do with the deeds registration.
So maybe just to interject there, if I need information on a specific property, the deeds office would be the first place for me to sort of go to get as much information as I can.
Yes, especially if you are engaged in the real estate transactions.
Yes.
So the deeds office is the first office. For example, where you go to the seller if you want to sell, you need also to come just look into his property, whether it's still on his name, the buyer as well, the banking institution as well. So yes, if you look any information that transferring any real estate, the deeds office is the key office to get all the information.
Okay.
Yes. Moving on, in indicating the role of the deeds office, I will mention you where I also will elaborate not only on transfer of properties. So first, the deeds office is, we are mandated to transfer the property ownership rights. We are doing it in different ways.
Okay.
Not only when you sell the property.
Okay.
You can also, when you donate, you do also by this transfer, or when you exchange a transaction, a property that was maybe wrongly registered on your name, we do as well those. Inheritance, if you also have inherited a property, the transfer which is also done through the deeds office. But this, there are many to mention. I have just only mentioned few.
Okay.
Deeds office is also responsible for registration of mortgage bonds.
Oh, okay.
And we further also responsible to register those income transfers over the ownership rights. So like the uses of servitude. So we are also responsible for registering that. I mentioned this because are all linked to a property.
Yes.
That is to be transferred.
Yes.
Yes. We further, I can say one of the role, what we are doing, by doing this, we also ensure that the legal certainty of this property and the public have faith on what we are doing, because we also look into the transactions and then we look at whether it is conducted in accordance of the any legal framework for that transactions before we transfer it. So we also preventing the fraud and corruption in the property market.
Yes.
Whereby we register restrictions. If any person will not want an owner to transfer the property through the court restrictions or court order, we record it, and we also record certain of those rights that I have mentioned. Meaning that if you want to donate your property to your child, but you still want to stay on a house, we also record your rights to stay on that house. So that is one of the things that the deeds office maybe play also an important role in property transactions. One of it, we say also we protect the rights of ownership by defining the record of those ownership in the deeds office correctly.
Yes.
We also provide that information, as we have already mentioned, to the banking institution, and we also provide the reliable and accurate information through our the recording process. Because already with the mandate, I mentioned that we archive records.
Yes.
We also provide information. One of the things, we also maintain this record, the property records accurately. So this is for transparency's sake, as well as the rightful ownership, to keep those, that a record that is recorded is still under the person and it is not transferred illegally. So basically that is what I can say regarding the role that the deeds office is playing in property transfer.
That was quite a mouthful. So many responsibilities and so many fingers that the deeds office.
That's why I say I will mention it.
Yes.
In its full, not only by transfer of property, because it also, once the property is mortgaged, you cannot just transfer because of yourself as an owner. You still have to have a consent from the bank.
Yes.
Whether you can transfer this property, where the bond is to be cancelled. So all those transactions, it's the role that the deeds office have to that it's playing.
Yes. So basically ensuring that all stakeholders are protected, like you said, protecting, was it the rights of ownership, or what was the term?
Yes.
So all those rights of ownership with those different entities are protected through the deeds office.
Yes.
Okay.
And where I also say preventing fraud and corruption in the property market by registering those restrictions. So every person that having a stake in the deeds office, records or transfer, is also protected. Yes.
Which is very important, because for property, for most people, property is one of the most expensive assets that they will ever invest in. So, I mean, it's not to say just because something's not expensive, it shouldn't be protected, but I think it gives you that level of protection, or that sort of confidence to say that, okay, fine, this is a transparent process and it's also protected, and there are lots of entities ensuring that, you know, all these vested interests are looked after.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So if they look at our mandate, they can see that the deeds office is not only for registering and only maybe giving information.
Yes.
There is a lot that we are also playing within before any transactions is taking place.
Okay. When you're purchasing a property, when you're dealing with the lawyers, for example, you're always told of a process that's called lodgement and then registration. Can you perhaps take us through what that process looks like and where the deeds office is involved?
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. Yes, lodgement, it's one of our pre-processes, or the first processes before we conduct any processes within a deeds registration. We have various processes. I will mention maybe through the discussions. The first process is the lodgement, and lodgement is not done by any person. According to the current law that we are having, lodgement is done through a conveyancer or a notary. Not even a lawyer that haven't even specialized in conveyancing will not do the lodgement. He can do that lodgement, but he do it under the correspondence, meaning that he have to contact a conveyancer, a person that is admitted as a conveyancer to do the lodgement. So the conveyancer are preparing these documents. Once they do this preparation, they just don't do a drafting of a document or preparation of a document out of their own. They do on the instructions of the property owners or the banking institutions that instructing the conveyancer to prepare a deed for the lodgement. So a deed can also be lodged, transactions in a deed can be lodged by different conveyancers. Or all by the same conveyancers. So upon they have drafted all these documents, they need also to look into the able law and the prescribed form as per the Deeds Registration Act. We have two Deeds Registration Acts. The Deeds Registration Act itself and sectional title. So they need to comply with all those acts before they do lodgement. So for us, once the deed is lodged, we call it the day one of the deeds registration process. So once we get these deeds, we acknowledge it with a date stamp. So the date stamp is the process that guides us where the transaction is in the deeds processes. So after lodgement, then the other transactions is starting. At lodgement, it has its own day, but it's not the full day that we do the lodgement. There is a time determined by the registrar of deeds that the lodgement will start from what time and it will end for what time. After that, the other processes is starting. Yes. So basically, it's all what lodgement involves. It's just the deeds that is already prepared, lodge at the deeds office, and then we put a date thereafter, other processes will start. Those processes will be now to examine these deeds. So basically, we just look whether the conveyancer have, especially more on the prescribed form.
Yes.
If they follow the prescribed form. Have they spelled the name of the property, the name of the owners or the seller and the buyer involved in the transactions? Have they spelled it correctly? If they comply with all the restrictions that is in the old title deed, because restrictions is always coming from the owner, is the process that I've already explained where you want to be still as a usufructuary in your property that you have donated.
Yes.
So we look all those conditions, whether they have complied with. Once they have complied with, we put it to another process, that is a preparation. There the conveyancer have to engage with the deed office, where they also have to pay for the transfer duty, stamp duty, attending to any notes that we are giving to them, perhaps if we have just get a note.
Yeah.
Otherwise the process will go. There after the preparation, it go for execution. It's where the conveyancer now appear in front of the registrar, and then they sign this deeds document. So that's when we call it a deed have been registered in the deeds office.
Okay.
Thereafter, we go to update our register. So by law, we are prescribed to say that from the date of lodgement until the date of execution, we must take 5 days.
Okay.
That's why we call lodgement a day one. So if you come from the examination, we have 3 levels, and then preparation and execution within 5 days. But however, there is also exemption that the registrar either can expedite before the 5 days and also have also allow the conveyancers, if they are not ready, because on the 4th day before the 5th day, it's working days, the deed is supposed to be rejected.
Okay.
So the registrar is given the conveyancers or the client extra 2 days. So meaning that this process we are also taking up to 9 days.
Okay.
But the 9 days, it's an exemption that the registrar is giving. If the deed is ready in 5 days, we register it in 5 days. So that is what the lodgement is. It's all about.
Okay.
Yes.
So we mentioned registration. Maybe just to sort of emphasize, what does it mean when I finally, or when someone says, okay, the property has now been registered in your name? What is the expectation with that registration? In layman's terms, what are we saying?
Yes, I've touched a little bit on that. That's the process where we are saying is execution. So now the registration is to say that one, the whole, the process, we have looked into it. The deed, it's ready for the transfer of property. We have already mentioned the prevention of fraud and the protection of rights.
Yes.
We have looked into that this property can be transferred as this person. There's no restriction from a third person that this property should not be registered. We also see that, if there is a mortgage bond, the bond have consented to it. So now all the processes or due diligence was done on the deed, and the deed is compliant.
Okay.
So this is always happening on the 5th day of the transactions if there is no error on the transactions. So it means that the conveyancers who was appointed by the owner and the registrar, they are now sitting together, and the conveyancer will give a go-ahead that I'm ready for this transaction, I'm signing, of which the registrar is also signing that I'm also satisfied with the content of the deed, and I'm registering. So that is a signing of any deed document that was prepared, whether it's a title deed, whether it's a mortgage bond, or whether it's a bond cancellation or any real right transfer.
Yeah.
So now we sign it. After that signing, it's when we say the deed has been registered.
Okay.
Of which another process of updating our registry is taking place. Yes.
Okay. So when you say the deeds has been registered, can you then explain to us what exactly is a deed? I think the full name, or the full name that you gave to it was a title deed.
Yes.
In layman's terms for our audience, what is a title deed?
Yes, a title deed. It's a legal document. To me, it serves as an ownership right.
Okay.
of over the piece of land that is described in that title deed. We are dealing with different properties. We have standalone heirs, we have farms, we have sectional title. So that is the title deed for. So to further, I would say it secure the right of the owner, that you are the owner of that property. No one else is the owner. If there is a second claim on that property, then it should be in a title deed that was signed by the conveyancer on behalf of the owner and the registrar of deeds. So to me, I will say that it's a legal document that serves as ownership right.
Okay, it's a certificate of ownership, if you can say. And do I get if I purchase the property, do I get a copy, or do I get an original title deed, or is this the document that's stored in the deeds office? Just maybe explain through that process.
Okay. Many of the deeds, especially the deed of transfer, the certificate of registered title, the mortgage bond, the transfer of real rights, the servitude, are drafted in duplicate. At the lodgement, they will lodge in duplicate.
Okay.
So the process will go like that, and then the registrar will also sign those deeds in duplicate together with the conveyancers.
Okay.
After we update our records, after the execution and updating of the records, we deliver one copy for the deeds office archiving, and then the other copy will go back as to serve as the proof of the ownership of that person. So now it depends where it goes, but we don't deliver it on the hands of the owner. Whether you buy it whether you have transferred it cash, or whether you have go through a bank, we deliver it at the conveyancers who have lodged this deed.
Okay.
So from there, then you can obtain. So what you are getting is the replica of what we are saving, what we are archiving in the deeds office. Yes.
Okay. So, whoa, quite a lot of information that we've received from you today and that we need to digest. But it looks like the deeds office plays a very, very important role in the home buying process.
Very much.
And the biggest issue, or the biggest responsibility of is that of ownership. And just so that you're sort of confident to know that if and when I'm purchasing a property, there was an entire process, a due diligence that has taken place, and that your real rights or your rights of ownership are in fact protected with this property that you have just acquired.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Like I said, we have absolutely learned so much. The transfer process is one of the most important processes within the home buying process. We now understand what the deeds office role is in that entire process. And I'm sure this will make our home buying process or our home buying knowledge that much clearer.
No, okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
I think for the deeds office was also a privilege, because in the meantime we also have outreach to the nation for them to understand also the deeds registration processes.
Yes.
Yes. At times, people are also under the conception that the registration are always taking long at the deeds office. Now I think they have also learned that the deeds office is only once the deed is lodged, they are taking only 5 working days.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's just a portion of the entire process in the home buying process.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. And to our viewers at home, thank you so much for joining us for this very jam-packed, informative series, or session rather. We've learned so much. Please don't forget to join us for our next episode next week, Friday. Bye.